afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Metropolitan Stadium.
Call it in the air, please.
Heads.
Heads, he calls.
40 men together can't lose. Okay.
Week 15, playoff time. And were the world champion Oakland Raiders ready for a second Super Bowl championship? Number 28 running back Clarence Davis certainly was. This 30-yard touchdown by Davis was the only score of the first period last Saturday in Baltimore. But early in the second period, when Ken Stabler tried for more, Colts strong safety Bruce Laird stepped in front of Mark Van Egan and didn't stop until he had tied the game for Baltimore. The Oakland defense stymied Burt Jones and the Baltimore offense for the entire first half, except for one drive which stalled at the Raider 19, where Tony Linhart kicked a field goal which gave the Colts their first lead, 10-7 at the half. The third quarter brought a whole new ball game as Ken Stabler came out firing on his first series of the half. Cliff Ranch's clutch grab covered 41 yards and set the stage for the entrance of the game's eventual star, All-Pro tight end Dave Casper, number 87. Dave Casper's touchdown gave Oakland the lead at 14-10, but this stood up only until Ray Guy kicked off on the following play. Number 80 is Marshall Johnson, a little-known second-year receiver from Houston, who has spent his entire pro career recovering from knee surgery. But this one play by Johnson was enough to give the lead back to the Colts 17-14. And this was only to be the beginning. On the Colts' next series, Ted Hendricks blocked a David Lee punt, and once again the Raiders were in position to score. In the clutch, Ken Stabler again looked for Oakland's leading receiver, Dave Casper. And once again, the 230-pound tight end made it look easy as he put the Raiders back in front 21-17 at the end of 3 periods of play. Now involved in an excruciating seesaw battle, and despite constant pressure from the Raider rush, Burt Jones continued to fight back with the passing game. At the start of the fourth period, an 80-yard Colt drive culminated with a 4th-and-1 plunge for a touchdown by reserve fullback Ron Lee. And Baltimore was back on top, 24-21. Then on Oakland's next series, Ken Stabler again went for the bomb, and although he could not complete the pass, it worked out perfectly for the Raiders, as interference was called in the end zone on number 31, Nelson Muncie. This play set up the touchdown, which returned the lead to Oakland at 28-24. But then on Baltimore's next series, Burt Jones brought the Colts back again as he found his tight end Raymond Chester, number 87, for 30 big yards. From the Raider 43, Jones handed off 3 consecutive times to Ron Lee, and the 6'4", 230-pound fullback came through again for Baltimore. The Colts were back on top, 31-28. And then for 4 consecutive series, neither team could manage a first down. But then came the game's biggest play. With 2nd and 10 from his own 44, Ken Stabler once again looked for Dave Casper. The Oakland Raiders were the AFC's best offensive team this season, and they scored more points than any other team in the NFL. But this one play to Dave Casper probably saved their season, because it set up league-leading scorer Errol Mann for the field goal, which tied the score at 31, and sent this classic confrontation into sudden death overtime. One of the NFL's most spectacular contests ended appropriately enough with a Ken Stabler touchdown pass to Dave Casper at the start of his 2nd overtime period. For the day, Dave Casper caught just 4 passes, but every one of those 4 was a play crucial to the game's outcome. And so in a game in which the lead had changed an amazing 10 times, the world champion Raiders kept their poise and had one more very big victory to be proud of. The NFL playoffs had never come to Denver's Mile High Stadium. That is, until last week, when Craig Morton led the surprising Denver Broncos into the first round. Many consider Denver's opponents to be mere shadows of their former selves. Indeed, for Franco Harris and the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1977 will go down as the year of the costly turnover. And against an opportunistic bunch, such as Denver's Orange Crush defense, turnovers can be fatal. When alert defenders such as Pro Bowl linebacker Tom Jackson provide such excellent field position, the offense's job becomes that much easier. Such was the case in the first 20 minutes against Pittsburgh. Number 24, Otis Armstrong, followed Jackson's fumble return with a 10-yard waltz to the end zone, while earlier rookie Rob Lytle had bolted 7 yards following a blocked punt. Denver's first 2 touchdown drives covered a grand total of 27 yards. But if Pittsburgh was willing to make it easy, the Broncos were more than willing to accommodate them. And Mile High was loving it. When the Pittsburgh Steelers are down, their one great equalizer is still the steel curtain. Success hasn't come as easily this season for Pittsburgh's vaunted defensive unit, but give the Steelers more than one opportunity, and invariably they'll make the big play. Then try to intimidate their opponents into submission. Denver's offense couldn't sustain a drive against the aroused Steeler defense. Franco Harris, on the other hand, spent period 2 atoning for his earlier fumble, driving inside the Bronco 5 and setting up a Pittsburgh touchdown that tied the score at halftime. Period 3 saw Denver regain the lead for the 3rd time on a 30-yard beauty from Morton to Riley Odoms. But each time Denver beat the steel curtain for a score, the Steelers came back to beat Orange Crush. Here on a Terry Bradshaw pass to a wide-open John Stallworth that set up Pittsburgh's 3rd touchdown. Orange Crush hadn't lost more than 1 lead in the game all season. Perhaps playoff pressure was taking its toll. As dusk settled over Colorado, the issue still had not been resolved. Would Pittsburgh go to the AFC Championship game for the 4th consecutive year, or would Denver's miracle season continue? The matter would be decided on 2 fourth-quarter plays. The first play came compliments of All-Pro Tom Jackson, his second crucial interception of the period. His first had led to a field goal. Now Denver had 2 choices: sit on their lead and hope that time would run out on the Steelers, or put the Steelers away themselves. Their decision was sound, and the results were conclusive. Denver opted to do it themselves, and once again Craig Morton delivered, nailing speedy Jack Dalvin for the game's clinching score. On this historic day in Mile High Stadium, perhaps a new champion was born, and perhaps an old champion was put to rest. One thing is certain: the Broncos will play here one more time this week against the defending Super Bowl champion Oakland Raiders. 2 great teams in a title game showdown, vying for the right to make a claim that only one will be entitled to make. When teams face the Dallas Cowboys' flex defense led by All-Pro defensive end Harvey Martin, number 79, they often try to spice their God-given talents with a little something extra. Unfortunately for Walter Payton and the reborn Bears, their first playoff appearance in 13 years foundered on the rocks of the Doomsday defense. The flex was devised by Tom Landry to nullify great runners like Payton by swarming to the point of attack in a white wave of defenders. It is an old boxing adage that when the body goes, the head is sure to follow. Without the threat of Payton, the Chicago offense became a headless horseman. The Dallas defense held the NFL's leading rusher to 60 yards on 19 carries. Thus, an unhealthy burden was placed on the Bears to stop pro football's #1 offense, which has more surprises in its playbook than the Encyclopedia Britannica has pages. With Tony Dorsett used wisely as a decoy in the early going, number 44 Robert Newhouse became the wheel horse for Dallas, and his rock and roll running style kept Chicago off balance all afternoon. Quarterback Roger Staubach threw sparingly but effectively, and his deft pump fake freed tight end Billy Joe Dupree for a well-conceived 28-yard touchdown. The Cowboys pounded out a 17-0 lead at the half, and then in the final 30 minutes, they unleashed their Greyhound. Behind the block of center John Fitzgerald, number 62, on middle linebacker Tom Hicks, number 54, touchdown Tony Dorsett navigated through a maze of bodies to 6 points. On the day, Dorsett gained 85 yards and scored twice. But the key that unlocked the door to victory was held by safeties Charlie Waters, number 41, and Cliff Harris, number 43. Harris is the enforcer of the Dallas deep defense and prowls the secondary in search of teeth-rattling hits. Waters used to be picked on when he played cornerback for Dallas. Now he is an all-pro safety with the freedom to roam far and wide and still be there when the ball arrives. Waters picked off 3 of the Cowboys' 4 interceptions, and coupled with a rush that flustered, frightened, and flattened quarterback Bob Avellini, Dallas airmailed the Bears' passing game back to Chicago. Dallas dominated on the broad backs of their defense, flew on the winged feet of Tony Dorsett, and put the Bears to rout 37-0 by the fourth quarter. While most of the sellout crowd filed toward the exits, the more discriminating fans witnessed the hustle and grit which brought the Bears so far so fast this season. It all starts and ends with Walter Payton, who played the final period groggy from an earlier tackle, but proved that though his mind was unwilling, his heart was still able. The Bears' lone score of the game materialized when Cliff Harris, number 43, failed to read and react to Bob Avellini's intentions. Before Harris could recover, number 85, Steve Schubert, clutched a touchdown that salvaged a little bit of pride on a lost day for the Bears. Today, the Cowboys' potential finally caught up with their talent, and they flew to the NFC Championship 37-7. Just wait till we get them in the Coliseum. So went the battle cry of the Los Angeles Rams as they prepared to meet the Minnesota Vikings in the first round of the NFC playoffs. All three previous postseason meetings between these clubs had been played in the cold climes of Minnesota, and on all three occasions the Vikings were the victors. But now the Rams were at home, only to find that the balmy LA climate had turned on them. It was great irony worthy of O. Henry or Hitchcock. For 2 years, California has been plagued by drought. But when the rains finally came, they were most unwelcome. The undermanned Vikings now had an equalizer, even though in the early going the Rams seemed unaffected by it. LA's first offensive series was crisp and smooth as the running of John Cappelletti and Lawrence McCutcheon, number 30, moved the team with surprising ease. But on a 4th and 1 situation at the Minnesota 31-yard line, the Rams decided to gamble for the first down. Again, McCutcheon got the call, but this time the Vikings were ready. In retrospect, this was the game's turning point. After this play, the Rams were unable to seriously threaten until it was much too late. But for the Vikings, it sparked their finest offensive series of the game. One key play was a pass from quarterback Bob Lee to wide receiver Ahmad Rashad, number 28. Rashad's catch set up the only score of the first half, a 5-yard run from number 44, Chuck Foreman. Foreman finished the game with 101 yards rushing, making the clutch plays when he had to. Today especially, Foreman was the Minnesota attack. But the Rams found they too could move when tight end Terry Nelson, number 83, touched the ball. Nelson caught 5 passes, complementing the running of McCutcheon. Despite close encounters of the muddy kind, McCutcheon still ran for over 100 yards. But when the Rams got near the end zone, Minnesota slammed the door. An interception by number 25, Nate Allen, ended the most serious Ram advance of the first 30 minutes. Minnesota was a 10-point underdog for this game, yet led 7-0 at the half. Only 2 months earlier, these same Vikings had been humiliated here by the Rams in a 35-3 rout. Now it was their turn to exact revenge. And appropriately enough, it was Chuck Foreman who led the way. Foreman's fourth quarter burst set up a touchdown plunge from Sammy Johnson that appeared to put the Rams away for good. Indeed, Los Angeles did not even get on the scoreboard until only 56 seconds remained. The Rams then recovered an onside kick, but were halted in their efforts to tie the game. Twice in the final minutes, the Vikings intercepted passes at the goal line, including this one from number 22, Paul Krause. For the fourth straight time, the Vikings beat the Rams in the playoffs. They did it with good defense, no turnovers, and a little assist from Mother Nature. The song says it never rains in Southern California, but this time it rained all over the Rams parade.